Hi, it's Dave and Mike again, here to talk to you about something you're hopefully interested in, how to get clients. So we have our own thoughts on what's worked for us, our own experience. So this is at least in our experience what works, but please, of course, treat as interesting guidance. And we'd like to hear from you what works for you as well. Remember, it's always different for everybody. So, um, but let's get into it. So, Michael, before we hit record, you were talking a little bit about how you currently get clients and what works for
Mhm.
you. So tell us,
Yeah,
how does
sure.
that go?
Well, I'm involved in a number of communities, and I think the important thing there
Mhm.
is a couple things when it comes to getting clients as a coach is to actually be involved in stuff you're legitimately interested in.
Right.
And I'd say
Hmm.
the other thing to
Yeah.
add to that is, and it can't all be coaching, and it can't all
Uh,
be hanging out with other coaches.
right.
So,
Right.
in the other spaces and the other things that I do, I have developed genuine sort of, I don't know what to call them, acquaintanceships. And some of
Yeah.
these are online, some of these are in
Hmm.
person.
Yeah.
And,
Connections. You've
yeah,
connected with
naturally,
people.
yeah, I think that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And very naturally, the conversation always comes around to, so what do you do?
Hmm.
And I'm happy to
Right.
tell them, and I'll share. I'm a coach, and that doesn't tend to mean much to people. So I'll often say a
Yeah.
little bit more than that. I work with a lot of people around job dissatisfaction, life dissatisfaction, feeling stuck,
Hmm.
feeling like
Nice.
this isn't for me, but I don't really know what is.
Hmm.
And you have the odd person that, well, actually more than the odd person now says, well, oh man, I'm in that spot, or I know someone who is. And
Right.
my
Right.
follow-up is usually something along the lines, okay, well, if you ever want to talk about it, I'd be happy to spend 40 minutes with you. Depends on how much time I have, the connection I'm feeling.
Hmm.
We'll set up a Zoom call, we'll just talk. And
Yeah.
I mean it, I
Yeah.
think
Right.
that's the really important thing is it's not, I have a little bit of a strategy, and I'm keeping my ears open if this will be a good client, and if
Right.
not, no problem. I don't treat
Hmm.
it as a waste of time or anything like that. I feel
Right.
really privileged to be able to learn about people, to help them in whatever ways I can.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, sometimes what
That's
they
great.
need, what they can handle, or, what I need and what I can handle is we just stop after
Hmm.
that first conversation.
Hmm.
And sometimes I have the sense that I can help more and I would enjoy it, and they would probably enjoy it and get a
Right.
lot out of it. In which case I'll mention, this is what I do for a living. This is how it works, and share
Hmm.
a little bit with them about that. Actually, I think it's important to say before doing all these things, because I know that can be really challenging for some people, and that can bring up a lot of anxiety. One thing
Hmm.
that really helps me feel okay about going there with people is
Hmm.
asking for permission, and
Hmm.
telling them, so I do this professionally. This is how I make a
Yeah.
living. Would it be all right if I share with you like what that looks like, how that tends to work? And it's
Right.
fine
Sure.
if they say
Yeah.
no, which rarely
Hmm.
happens, by the way. And
Yeah.
then it doesn't feel so much like a hard sell, or I'm doing something skeezy or anything like that. I think we both feel better
Yeah.
with the fact that this is a consensual conversation that
Right.
will eventually turn to money that we're having.
Right. Right. That's
Mhm.
important, that integrity. So
Yeah,
maybe just
definitely.
say a little more about the communities that you're working with or connecting with. Like, how does one find a community like that? I mean, it maybe is obvious to you, but just like,
Yeah,
are you in a chat room somewhere, or are
I
you?
am.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Fun.
and that's because I have strange esoteric interests in
Hmm.
anthropology and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
tends to be based on that. This is something I do at the gym, which is a little bit more down to earth and
Okay.
relatable for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Just talking to people at the gym, sharing, especially I think
Hmm.
coaches and personal trainers
Right. Hmm.
have some things in common. So
For
there's
sure.
there's
Yeah.
some
Right. It's true.
mutual understanding there, and some
Hmm.
connections that have been forged that way.
Mm.
I've done martial arts for a good third of my life. I've gotten some
Yeah.
clients through
Okay.
there. So and again, I think the important thing, other than you don't want to only be hanging around coaches, because then everyone's kind of in the same boat. Other
Right.
than that, I think the most important thing for people to do is just be involved and be connecting with people around things that you don't mind doing, that it doesn't feel like work
Right.
to kind
Right.
of be in. That can
Yeah.
really help. I and
So.
I would
Go
just
ahead.
say one more thing,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
because I know that a lot of people, and I feel this way too, when I think about like the conventional way we think about networking, which is you know, you got to go somewhere where you're one of many people that doesn't actually want to be there. It's an obligation. You know,
Hmm.
you're in a big
Right.
hotel room or convention center or stuff like that, and you know, someone's got to summon the cojones to like make the first move and stuff like that. I mean, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong if you do enjoy it, and I think
Yeah.
that can actually be a cool thing to
Hmm.
try
Yeah.
once or twice. But what I'm describing is also networking,
Hmm.
and hopefully, you know, for the
Yeah.
introverts among us, and I would count
Hmm.
myself as one of them. This is an easier way to do it, a more comfortable way to do it. You know, who do I actually want to talk to? Where and with whom do I actually want to hang out? And then go from there.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So you're a person out in the world with
Mhm.
genuine interests,
Yeah.
and you go to the communities where those interests are being discussed,
Hmm.
and then as naturally happens in life, you, at some point you start talking about what you do,
Right.
and people are interested or not, and you go from there. But I think there's a piece in there too, I hear, which might be obvious to some, but you also have a good relationship with yourself as being a coach. Like
Yes.
you're not shy about it. You're willing to own your capacity as a coach. And I think a lot of times early on, I've noticed with myself,
Hmm.
transitioning from like being an executive, marketing executive to a coach, it was a little bit like, I'm a coach, you know, like I didn't quite want to say it
Mm.
full
I
on
see. Yeah.
and own it. And I think that what's really cool is I'm hearing with you when you're in your group with whatever esoteric thing it is, you're
Hmm.
or the gym, you're saying, yeah, I'm a coach and I work with people that are stuck,
Yeah.
dissatisfied, and I help them, find new perspectives and et cetera. And so you're able to talk about it fluently and or fluidly and fluently. And so that
Somewhat.
people, yeah, somewhat.
I
Okay.
mean, I
Yeah.
think what I would add, you're right, and I think it is important to own it and to practice until you feel like
Hmm.
you can own it. And the other
Right.
thing too is what I try and do is I'd rather be coaching someone than describe what I do as a coach. I think
All
it's a
right.
better
Hmm.
it's a better enticement
Just
to coach with
experience
me.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I try and
Hmm.
spend as little time sort of describing, you know, whatever methodologies I'm using or how it works, and more saying, well, you know, let's just talk. Like I'd rather
Right.
be talking
Hmm.
about the other person and
Yeah.
give them an experience about coaching in action than trying to define the words or you know,
Right.
um, wrestle with someone's earned or unearned skepticism about
Hmm.
coaching. It works a little bit better for me.
Love that. So maybe, like you mentioned, in a way you have a strategy, and maybe the strategy is that what I'm hearing is,
Mhm.
if I find someone that I connect with and they're interested in what I do and seem to have a need, I'll just say, rather than me explaining how it works, let's just have a call and I will do a quick coaching demo so you can kind of experience a little bit of how that goes.
Yeah, yeah,
How I
absolutely.
coach.
That tends to be my
Okay.
preferred approach.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, if it feels right, and I'm always asking for permission.
Hmm.
I might do, you know, 2-3 minutes there, just asking some curious questions about
Right.
whatever it is that they've brought up. Typically, for me and the people I work with, it's job dissatisfaction, but it could be anything based
Mhm.
on the topics that someone's passionate about coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I think that's great. So, all right. So there you have it. There's Michael's secret sauce on how he is getting new clients to work with. It's showing up as Michael in
Hmm.
places that Michael likes to be, and
Yeah,
and and therefore having conversations with real people. And I think so. I can share a little bit about
please.
my world. And so what happens with me is that typically a lot of my clients do come through word of mouth, and so I've worked with people for a time, and I had a network when I left the music tech world, and I had a number of people who kind of followed up with me and said, hey, I'd like to have be mentored by you or coached by you. And so that was kind of a natural transition for a lot of my clients. But since that time, also I've had people randomly find my website. I've had all sorts of conversations in social media and that sort of thing. And for me, I think part of it has really just been making sure that I'm doing some outreach, reaching out to people that were important to me. So it's in a similar vein to Michael, maybe not to communities, but to, hey, this was a client I worked with, and I check in with them on how things are going these days at their office with their new set of employees or challenges or things that they're working with. And sometimes we'll do a catch-up call. Sometimes we'll it'll actually be a coaching call, but a lot of times, it's just kind of a quick top of mind sort of email. And in an indirect way, I'm showing them that I'm around, but I really, in a direct way, I'm showing them I care. And I think that
Yeah.
to me has been a way that stimulates conversations and activity, and therefore those tend to lead to some kind of coaching conversation at some point.
Can I ask you something about that
Yeah.
that indirectness and directness? Because
Yeah.
you've
Please.
shared with me before, Dave, and I think a lot of coaches like don't realize that this is actually okay and helpful. That sometimes you'll let your clients know when you're just finishing up with them or after a while that, hey, I really enjoyed working with you, and if you know of anyone else that could benefit from coaching, if they're like you, I'm sure we'd be a great fit as well. Could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The old adage of, ask for the referral is a real thing. I think I heard about it first, I think in the real estate world. I think I would notice that I'd work with a real estate agent and I'd start getting their email signature would say, I appreciate your referral. But, it kind of just felt like a catch-all thing. And I said, so I think what Michael's saying and what you're saying, Michael, and I really appreciate is that it's sort of more heartfelt. It's like, hey, I really liked working with you. We really had a good connection. If I can help, someone, by all means, please pass me along to them. Because I think a lot of people don't think to do that, or they may think about it, but they don't quite go to, it takes a lot to get that effort happening where someone actually sends the email to somebody and says, hey, here's somebody that I worked with. They did a great job for me. And I think maybe if you're ever needing a coach, this would be somebody to talk to. And so I think that little nudge of like letting someone know that, that it was that, not putting an obligation in their lap saying, please, send this, but it's sort of saying, in case, you're inspired, please, I am interested, and it would be great to work with someone like you or one of your friends because we had such a good connection. So yeah, and I think it just we don't have to be shy about saying that. In my opinion, I think if you got an email like that from somebody, you might know, oh, well, they're looking for clients, they're looking for work. But if you genuinely like them, what's the problem? It's like, well, I would sit and, spend a few seconds about thinking of my network for that person rather than something else. So
especially if I had the experience of Dave really helping me out, like I benefited so much from that. I wouldn't mind thinking about it at all. I probably actually have a list of a couple of people I wish would seek coaching.
Right. Yeah, and that can be a delicate thing, right? Like if you're recommending someone else to a coach, it's kind of like, oh, you need a coach, it's
right.
I think it's not hopefully that, but I do think it is like helping people sort of find the words to like say if you need someone who's looking for someone to talk to or someone that's considering a career change or whatever the type of coaching you kind of find yourself doing, I think that's safe to ask for, and it really can't hurt too. I'd say that it's like they're probably not going to think any less of you. So that's before, or that's after you've had some clients though, right? So like, but a lot of times you have volunteer clients or demo clients or something where you're learning, and even those folks, are I think great sounding boards. So those are a couple of quick ideas. Instead of polishing your website up or making more content for the world to consume, those are some just practical things about hanging out in communities, asking people for referrals, having conversations, striking up conversations with folks, giving them a demo of what you do. Those are all tried and true examples from Michael and I's experience. And I know Michael and I also talk to other coaches, and we would tend to say that seems to be a pretty common thing that a lot of us hear. So hopefully that's helpful as a get up Monday morning sort of thing you can start to think about, and we'll continue to provide other resources as we go.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Okay.